Hi, it's Steve Hoffman with Palo Alto Networks. I'm the Federal Division Vice President. I appreciate your time today. We're here with Rick Howard, our Chief Security Officer. Rick, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Very excited to have Rick at Palo Alto Networks. He's a past CISO at Task and was also the General Manager of the iDefense Division at VeriSign. Rick, the background that you bring to Palo Alto Networks really speaks volumes. With the experience you've had in the industry, what would you say are the unique things that are going on in the industry today that CIOs and CISOs need to address?
Oh, that's a great question. I've been kind of talking about this for the last couple of years. There has been a sea change on how we approach the adversary, right? And there's about 3 different things going on that advanced organizations are already doing. And the first one is they are transforming their old incident response teams, their tactical teams who went after, I call it whack-a-mole defense. They see something, they go stop it, and they wait for the next thing. They're transitioning those guys to intelligence teams, thinking it more of a strategic play, that the bad guys don't come in and do one thing, they have a campaign plan, and we need to understand the entire thing if we're going to defeat the entire objective. So that's one. The second one is getting away from this idea that perimeter defense is good. Okay, we invented perimeter defense, when I started back in the old days, back when we had nothing else. And the idea was that we build these giant electronic digital walls around our enterprise, and we prevent everybody from getting in. What we really learned right after we did all that is that we had to let some things in or we couldn't function. And so that model does not work, and it hasn't worked for over a decade. What advanced organizations are doing is they said, you know what, let's assume the bad guys are going to get in at some point. And if you make that assumption, what can you know about what the adversary is going to do once it's inside your network? So we developed this idea of the kill chain model, where the bad guys have to do about the 6 or 7 same things, regardless of their motivation, to be successful. They have to do all of them correctly, or they won't get in. The good news for us is that we only have to defeat them in one spot, and they have to kind of start over, right? So that's the kill chain model. And the kill chain is basically the bad guy recons. He develops a weapon to take advantage of the vulnerabilities he found in the recon. He delivers the weapon, he installs the weapon, he establishes command and control back to the internet to get more instructions, and finally, once he's done all of those things, he can accomplish what he's trying to do, steal your intellectual property, your credit card information, or whatever. Okay, so that's the kill chain model. And that's what advanced organizations are doing. They're deciding to put choke points at each link in the kill chain to look and block for the adversary.
So what would you do if, to a new CIO just taking over a role in government, what would your recommendation be to enhance that level of remediation?
So it's tough for CIOs, right? Because, and every organization is different. I've been in a number of different ones, right? And where does the security apparatus sit inside the organization? In my last job at Task, the CISO, my role, fell underneath the CIO. But in the job here I have at Palo Alto Networks, I work directly for the CEO. So it's a different kind of organizational shift, right? And so if the CIO is in charge of security, like it was in my last job, but even if he's not, like in our organization, Bob Quinn is our CIO, but he and I have to work hand in hand because he's deploying the infrastructure for us. Sure. So he has a role and a say in how we do things. So it goes a long way to set that question up, but what should he be asking himself? I think the real question is, what is the right metrics that we should be delivering up to the CIO and the CSO and up through to the CEO? We were talking in a previous discussion about how our industry, our community, the security community, has really failed at this over the last 10, 15 years. We have not done well at translating, geez, I found 1,000 vulnerabilities on your network, to something that the CEO cares about. And what we have to really do, I think, in the conversation is say, not, boss, there's 1,000 vulnerabilities, but there's 1,000 vulnerabilities, and this is how it might affect your business materially. What is the impact to the business because of that? Sure. And if we can't make that conversation or do that translation, then we're not very good at our job.
And you mentioned the translation, or more importantly, the transition. You mentioned how strong a lot of organizations are in perimeter security, but in a lot of the customers I do business with, it's really migrating to the importance of the data center.
Yeah.
As a company, we do very well with application identification, content, and user, but as you go more from a physical to more of a virtual environment, what do you see Palo Alto Networks play in the data center?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it is something that the industry has ignored, all right, in the last 5 to 10 years. Really, data centers have been run by the organization. They really haven't been cloud plays until the last 5 years, right? And we all know how to run data centers. We just kind of wrap it up in the perimeter. But now we're putting these data centers into public clouds and semi-private clouds, and so these are really islands of data that we have to protect. And these islands have different security requirements depending on what the data we have there. right? And so what we're looking for is a flexible system that we can design and deploy quickly and efficiently and monitor efficiently and quickly. And that gets away from buying lots of hard iron, okay, to do that in the data center. So organizations like ours and everybody else's, we're moving to the cloud with virtual systems, okay? And we've been talking in the old way. North-south traffic is the way traffic would come in from the internet to your enterprise. East-west traffic is that data inside your virtual networks in your data centers, okay, that up till the last couple of years we really haven't been paying that much of attention to.
You know, I saw recently the announcement that we made with VMware. It kind of plays into the same conversation you're talking with EastWest Traffic. Could you kind of explain to us what the value of that partnership is?
Well, that means that now that we have the ability to use the same technology we used in the old way, you know, using it app ID and current content ID and user ID, I can apply those same things now to the virtualized network, which we never had before. And what's interesting in the data center, a lot of those great applications are talking to each other, and we can really lock that down to this application can only talk to that application, and that's only traffic we're going to allow inside the data center. And I can manage that with my own command center that I use on the real world. I can do that in the virtual world, so it's very efficient, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great partnership for us. So Rick, thanks very much for clarifying our partnership with VMware. I think it's going to bring extreme value to our customers. One thing I would question you though, what excites you the most about our virtual environment that we're developing?
That's a great question. There's really two things I'm really liking about this. The same technology that I would get in my traditional enterprise, the app ID, the content ID tied to the user, I get that exactly in the virtual space. Okay, it's not a replica of it, or not even a sub-list of it. It is the exact same thing. The same technologies that I love on the real world, I'm going to have in the virtual world. So that's number one. The second one is, though, as we build these virtual environments, tear them down and move them and put them in someplace else, I'm managing all that centrally. So I don't have to redo it every time I redeploy another virtual network. Those policies that I have stood up, they're going to follow those virtual environments, all managed from a single platform. Makes it so much easier. It takes the complexity out of the equation, and I'm very happy about that.
That's great for us. One of the other things my customers talk to me all the time, beyond what their migration is to the data centers, what are they doing with advanced persistent threats? And I know we feel we've got a unique proposition in a single pass architecture. Can you kind of expound on why that's appropriate for our customers to adopt?
Well, I mean, I love the story, right? Our CTO, Nir Zook, right, invented this technology, all right, because he was fed up with the way the old firewall folks had done it, all right? And he's the guy that has developed this disruptive technology. The old generation firewall is basically block IPs and ports and protocols, and the light switch is on or it's off. We're going to either allow it or not going to allow it. And he said, you know, that's a really dumb way, and it really hasn't worked in 10 years. With blocking by applications tied to users, tied to content, and what I mean by that is the next generation firewall knows that I'm using Facebook, that Rick Howard is using Facebook, and Rick likes to use chat, and that's okay. But everything else that I don't want him to use, and I can cut that off. So instead of a light switch we have a dial, sure, right? And I can turn it up or turn it down depending on my risk posture.
Yeah, and that allows our customers then to tailor, I guess, to each employee, whether it's the CIO or somebody down that just entered into the organization, what their threat profile might be.
Now, well, I'm going to go back to your question. The question you asked me is the zero, doing it in one pass.
Correct.
Right? We have some really smart engineers at Palo Alto Networks, right? And they designed to do these kinds of operations with really advanced hardware techniques. So the data comes into the firewall one time and we're making these decisions. Even if when we add the other services like IPS, like URL filtering, like DNS filtering, okay, like the wildfire stuff, okay, our sandboxing technology, that's still, you turn all those switches on, we are doing it in one pass, there is no performance hit to us. For our competitors, when they add those services, and they have next generation firewall capability too, but they're adding it on as extra blades or extra pieces to their situation. So when they turn it on, they take an exponential performance hit. It wasn't designed from the ground up to do it, and ours was, and it's pretty exciting to be in this company that has it.
Sure, Rick, one final question. You know, if you take a look at a lot of our customers when they hear about Palo Alto Networks, the first thing they think about is next generation firewall, and we've evolved an awful lot as a company since we came to market. What would would you say the next generation of technologies is that Palo Alto Networks is looking at infusing into the product portfolio?
Well, we made some recent purchases of companies since January. All right, we bought a small security company called Morta. Their specialty was looking for adversaries who've already penetrated your network, and as they try to go lateral, as the enemy has established a beachhead, now he wants to take control as much network as he can, and Morta came up with some technologies that will allow us to see that kind of lateral movement. Very exciting, all right? And this latest purchase that we bought from Cyvera gives us the ability to actually be on the host. And before we purchased these guys, we can infer host activity with our wildfire services. We would see documents that were coming through the firewall, we'd dump them up to the cloud, and we'd see if they were malicious. And if they were, we provide signatures back to the entire customer base because we thought it was because it's a bad file. But we weren't on the host looking for what was really happening. All right, so now with Cyvera in our midst, we're going to have the ability to actually see what the malicious code does on the host as it reaches back to command and control, as it tries to go lateral, and whatever it tries to do, we can be able to see it. I'm very excited about it. Is where we need to be as a company, is nobody else is be able to put the entire package together, all the way down the kill chain. From going back to the beginning of this conversation, we can see it all the way down, or we're going to be able to see it all the way down. I'm very excited about it.
Well, it's great to see the innovation the company is bringing to the federal market, specifically addressing the cybersecurity needs of our citizens. I do appreciate your time today, Rick.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
You bet.